Glen Big Baby Davis has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for a fraud scheme. The former Boston Celtic was sentenced to 3.5 years for an alleged scheme to defraud the NBA's healthcare benefits plan. He was convicted of the crime back in November, and he was sentenced recently. This was not a small scheme. 18 former players, 21 people overall, have been sentenced now for filing false medical claims to receive money from the NBA players' health and benefit welfare plan. Now, along with the prison sentence, again, 3.5 years, that ain't no joke for an actual NBA star. They usually get him slaps on the wrist. So the NBA clearly takes his bread serious. Davis was ordered to pay $80,000 in restitution, complete 3 years of supervised release, and the supervised release includes financial management classes and drug treatment. Now, according to the reports, Glen Davis, also known as Big Baby, was not the ringleader of this. The ringleader was Terrence Williams, also a former NBA player. And they roofed him. They gave him 10 years. Now, he got 10 years, Terrence Williams. Big Baby Davis, Glen Big Baby Davis got 3 years, and then everybody else got considerably less time. So there's lessons here. There's analysis here that needs to happen. First of all, the first thing for me, when I see people commit crimes or acts of harm or acts of dishonesty, the first thing I do is ask, what drove them to make this choice, right? I operate from a restorative framework. I don't ask who did it and how do we punish them. I ask who was harmed and how do we make them whole. So the NBA was harmed. The Players Union was harmed. The pension was harmed. For those that don't understand, NBA players, every year that you play, you gain another year of seniority and another year counted toward a pension. If you play the minimum number of the minimum number of years in the NBA, which is 3 years, you get you're fully vested. That's the best way to put it, right? In other words, if you play for 3 years, you get something. Every year that you play, you get something more. Once you hit 10 seasons, you get the max. So like LeBron's not going to get a gajillion dollars because he's playing 55,000 years. Nobody's been as good for this long, by the way. LeBron, you might not think he's a GOAT, but he's definitely the best for the longest. In other words, nobody's been this good for this long. That's sidetracking, no extra charge for that. NBA players have a pension plan, 3 years, they're vested, 10 years, they get the max. That is an attempt to create some kind of financial stability for players who really don't have a lot of economic resources once the career is over. The pension plan started in 1965, so there was an attempt at kind of collective organizing around that time. You got to thank people like Oscar Robertson for that, by the way. He's not just the triple-double god, he's also a fighter for players' rights, as was Curt Flood in baseball. But in basketball, you got not just Oscar Robertson, you got Bill Russell, you got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you got others, right? Anyway, the NBA careers are short. NBA careers are only 3 years, I believe, is the average NBA career. I believe it's three and a half years. But it's certainly not long. Actually, I just looked. The average NBA career is actually 4.5 years now. The average NFL career is a little shorter. So when you're playing professional sports, don't think about LeBron. Don't think about Tom Brady. Those are extraordinary outliers for all the reasons. If you're in the NFL, know you're going to play an average of 3.3 years. And if you're a running back, that number drops to 2.6 years. If you're an NBA player, know you're only going to play for 4.5 years. Then you're going to bounce around and you're going to be gone. So all of your money that you make has to last for the rest of your life in terms of the money you make as a pro athlete. Now, some people say, well, why are we holding him to a different standard? Everybody else goes out and works. That's true. But even if we're thinking about this from a kind of political economic analysis, or even a Marxist would say, yeah, but this NBA player, Glen Davis or whoever, is generating billions, if not trillions, of dollars for the league, and so they're even further exploited. They're even more alienated from their labor. That's the argument. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, in order to really understand why somebody like Glen Davis or these other NBA players who committed these acts of fraud might have done it, you got to kind of understand that NBA players don't get a lot of time. They don't get a lot of time to play. They are often preyed upon by agents, by lawyers, by financial advisors, etc. Now, Glen Davis was not the kind of person I'm describing. Glen Davis played 9.5 years in the NBA. Glen Davis was an NBA champion on the Boston Celtics. He was that one championship that people in Boston act like somehow counts for more championships, like they were a dynasty when they won one ring. They lost the next year to the Spurs, whatever. Point is, Glen Davis played a lot. He played a lot. Now, by the end of his career, he was making minimums, and he didn't enter the era where everybody's getting 30, 40, $50 million. That's true. He became a journeyman, and he wasn't a particularly special player. You know, if he doesn't play on that Celtics team, I'm not sure if his career is even that long. But Glen made a decent amount of money. I don't know his, in fact, I'm gonna look it up while I'm sitting here. Glen Davis's career earnings were $34 million. Now, some of y'all are like, look, how the hell do you squander $34 million? Again, if you in the NBA, half of it goes to taxes. So now $17 million, $16 million for your career. Your agent's going to take millions of that. Your manager is going to take, trainers, all this is going to take millions. You buy a house, you take care of your family. I'm not saying that it's not a lot of money. I'm not saying boohoo for the $33 million guy, but I am saying that it's not what y'all think it is. And then a lot of times, and I know a lot of NBA players, a lot of times they get preyed upon, they get approached by people with get rich quick schemes or long-term investment schemes, both of which often end up taking millions, if not tens of millions of dollars from them. So I see this all the time. After they leave the NBA, many develop addictions, gambling, drugs, alcohol. Those are often devastating. And they don't have the support networks. They don't have the mental health resources. They often don't have things that other people may have access to in other spaces or industries where you're making tens of millions of dollars. So when I look at a case of Glen Big Baby Davis or the other couple dozen players that got locked up and convicted, this part of me that's like, come on, y'all already made tens of millions of dollars. Why y'all being greedy? Just go get a job. Go launch a podcast. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Go be a head coach at a high school. Like, you can make a living. You're not entitled to make millions. No one's entitled to be a millionaire. Everybody's entitled to a living wage. And as a former NBA player, you can get a living wage. But I do understand how people have lifestyles and arrangements that are dependent upon a certain income level. They're taking care of families. They're taking care of 15 people. They're paying 8 college tuitions. I get how it happens. I do. Believe me, I do. But we got to make better decisions. So I'm not going to defend Big Baby for this, because the other thing is, you're not stealing from the billionaire. I would lose a lot less sleep if I thought Glen Davis and his cohorts were, sneaking an extra $1 million or $2 million out of the owner of the Clippers or the owner of the Mavericks or whatever, right? If Elon Musk owned the team and you leaned in on the pension plan a little extra, I probably wouldn't say a word. Wouldn't approve of it. I wouldn't approve of it, but I wouldn't be wilding about it, right? But when it comes to the players union, you're actually stealing from the pot of money that your fellow players are drawing from. You know, and I'm sure some of it is insured, but those insurance rates go up when you have mass theft and mass impropriety. My point is, you're not taking from the rich and giving to the poor. You're not taking from the 1% and giving it to the 5%. You're not taking from the 0.001% and giving it to the 1%. You're taking from yourself and particularly your friends, your peers, your teammates, your old heads, your OGs, your youngins. You're taking their money, and so it's indefensible at a certain level. But what I want to say as we conclude is, let's also go deeper. That's what night school is all about. Let's go deeper. I don't think it's enough to just say these guys are just greedy. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's accurate. I think it's more accurate to say some of them are greedy, some of them are just bad people, but there's also a very predatory and exploitative economic arrangement in pro sports that drives players to make these kinds of terrible choices. And if you think they're bad in the NBA, wait till you get to the WNBA, where women athletes are even further alienated from their labor. Caitlin Clark, maybe the greatest women's basketball player we've ever seen. I'm about to make my producer mad. Makes $75,000 a year. Now, $75,000 a year is a great salary. It's a living wage salary, but people are making billions off of her. Yes, I know she has endorsements and stuff, but I'm talking about if she didn't get those, if she didn't want those, she would be out there doing a job for $75,000 that's generating literally billions over the course of her career. Same thing with Michael Jordan, right? And yes, I'm comparing Caitlin Clark to Michael Jordan. Be mad at somebody else, not me. I don't care.